The overhead tricep. Again, this is a case where I use a dumbbell. Imagine that this is a dumbbell. Here's the handle, here's top weight, here's the bottom weight. I tend to grip it with both hands. You can do this with one hand, but I prefer to do it with two hands. You bring the weight over your head. I'm going to drop down on my knees so you can see the full movement of the exercise. And I bring it up over my head, and I slowly lower it behind my head till the weight touches behind my shoulders, and then back up. Behind my head and back up. Now be careful of doing too much of this, because this movement can put a lot of strain on your triceps and also on your shoulders in moving it too far back. I prefer to keep the movement with those upper arms relatively straight to get the isolation of the tricep exercise. The shoulder circuit. Now this is a very intense circuit, so I recommend starting out with very light weights. Imagine that these are two dumbbells. I know they don't look like it, but you're going to have to use your imagination. The first part of the circuit, normal stance. Legs slightly apart, slight bend to them. You don't have to lock your knees. You don't have to have your feet really close together. You can just stand there. Is the front lift. So you'll front lift, arms straight, for 5 repetitions. Immediately going into the lateral lift. Straight out to the sides, arms straight. You can edit this move by taking your arms and keeping them at a slight angle and bringing them up. You notice how my arms are at a 45-degree angle coming up. You can also do that if that feels more comfortable. I prefer to keep my arms straight to get the full benefit of the exercise. You immediately bend over and you do a reverse fly, which is basically keeping your arms with a slight bend to them, lifting them back, squeezing the shoulder blades behind your back as you're doing the exercise. The view from the side for this one, notice my back is relatively straight. Bring it back up, and then back down. And then you go into a high pull. Again, this is almost exactly like with the bar, except now you're using dumbbells. Again, keeping those elbows up for the exercise and back down. Also keeping the weight close to your body the entire exercise. And then the last one is the Arnold press, in which you will curl the dumbbells up, press them above your head. You'll notice that as I bring it down, the dumbbells rotate and back down. Come up to my shoulders, they rotate. Over my head, back down, rotate, down. Okay, for the pullover, you can either use the actual pullover machine that you're seated and pulling the bar over your head, or you can use a dumbbell. I prefer to use the dumbbell, but that's only my preference. The way to do it is I have a bench, and what you do is you sit down on the bench. What you do is you grab the dumbbell around the handle, like so, just like the tricep overhead press. And what you're going to want to do is you scoot your butt off the seat, and then get your shoulders back onto the bench. And it feels awkward at first. You can hold the weight on your chest because you're not using a lot of weight for right now. And my legs, which you'll see in the next part of this, are at a 45 or 90-degree angle right now. I tend to stretch them out to give myself a lot of leverage, and so my body is basically straight. And what I do is I hold the weight over my head, and now your neck isn't really supported, but your shoulders are, so you'll have to hold your head up. And what you do is you slowly lower the weight over your head, and then back up. Over your head, and then back up. Now to stand up, I usually use the weight as leverage, or you can inch yourself back up. It is very awkward at first when you first do this. But again, if I were to be laying down right now to do this exercise, my body would be in this position, almost fully standing up. So what you'll do is, you're standing up, imagine the bench is behind my back, I've got the weight over my head, it comes up, and then back up. I like to keep my body relatively straight. You can also keep your leg at a 90-degree angle to hold yourself on the floor a little bit more balanced. It's completely up to you. This next portion are 2 exercises, what I call the Woodsman and the baler. You'll hear people call it the axe chopper, the wood chopper, the hay baler, lifting. There's a lot of different names for this. But what you'll be using are the cable machines. And so where you do the cable crossovers, you'll put the pulley on one side. And now the first one I'm going to do is the Woodsman. The Woodsman, you put the cable pulley high. And what I usually use is I use the tricep push-down rope, so it's really flexible. And now I only have one tube here that I'm holding on to, but you'll be holding on with both hands onto it. And so I'm just doing this as simulation. What you do is, so here's the cable machine. Your body is facing to the side of it. You have, in my case, I have my left side facing the cable machine. The pulley's up at the top, and what you do is you come across your body and down, and then back up. Just like you're chopping wood, like you're using an axe, coming down, except this time both your hands are going to be like this, so you're holding on to the rope for the tricep pushdown, and it's down, and then back up. Now the second part of this is going to be what I call the baler. I've seen a lot of different names for it, like I said before, but this is what I do most commonly. This time you grab the pulley, you move it to the bottom, all the way on the bottom of the rack. Again, you're using the tricep pushdown rope, but this time you're gripping it so you can pull up. So, again, I only have one tube, and when I grab it, I sit there, again, my body is sideways to the cable pulley. And what I do is I start down low, and I pull it up and over. So you imagine the exercise of lifting and throwing something over the top of a fence. And you're grabbing it, and you're lifting and throwing. It's a cross-body movement with also coming from low to high, really working your core, especially working the side angles. Okay, now for this one, this is the kneeling cable crunch. Now as far as this goes, I tend to really enjoy this exercise because it's like the Woodsman or the baler. It really works your abs a lot. So now what I usually do is, again, the cable crossover machine with the cables, I put the pulley on the highest one. I also, of course, use the tricep pushdown rope. That way it's really flexible and it helps out with the exercise quite a bit. Now imagine this right here is my actual stack with the weights. Here's the cable coming down from the top, and what I do is I face away from the stack. And what I do is I do this as a multi-part exercise. So what my first one is, I'm kneeling down, sitting on my heels. I go to the left, then I go to the right, and then down to the center. And that's one.